let's move on to the next Star Wars TV show. We've had The Mandalorian Season 1, we've had Mandalorian Season 2, we've had The Book of Boba Fett, and now we're moving on to a prequel to Rogue One, a Star Wars story. We are getting a focus on one of the characters, not the main character that belongs to one Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones. We instead are going to Diego Luna's Cassian Andor, right? So, Ricky, before we jump into the actual show itself and our reactions, I think we need to start with Rogue One. What are your thoughts on Rogue One? What's your relationship to it? Like, where does it reside in terms of like your Star Wars fandom? Give it to me.
I like Rogue One. I have flirted with it saying that I like it better than Force Awakens for a bit, but I think I've eased on that take. I definitely have eased on that take for sure. But if gun to my head, it's better than Rise of Skywalker by a lot. Better than Last Jedi. Yeah, gun to my head for sure. Now, my takeaway from Rogue One is definitely Darth Vader, greatest Darth Vader scene of all time. But if to relate back to Andor here, Diego Luna's Cassian Andor, I would say he was good in Rogue One. Okay, definitely like good, but he wasn't like the guy for me. I understand like how he's getting a Disney Plus TV show, and I think it's going to be good, Tony Gilroy. But for me, like him in Rogue One, it wasn't like, holy crap, I came out of that thinking he was amazing. No, I came out of that thinking, oh, Star Wars, Darth Vader, lightsabers, like related to A New Hope. And so that's like how I think of Rogue One, but I like Cassian Andor.
Okay. I like Cassian Andor as well. He seemed like he was a like espionage type figures, like wartime type of figure. I think that's what people most associate with Rogue One. It's a spin-off, or I guess a member of the Skywalker saga that doesn't have anything really to do with the Skywalkers aside from Anakin as Darth Vader. And I think that's what turned a lot of fans onto it in the first place. It was a different style of movie. It had a different tone. It didn't have Luke or Anakin at the center of it, and it focused on actual like humans rather than like the Siths versus the Jedi. And adopting this war type of movie, Tony Gilroy, a lot of people commend what he did. Some people even say like they make the mistake thinking he directed it. Like this Rogue One movie had a lot of like tumultuous stories from its shot, right? From its shoot, excuse me. So I guess Tony Gilroy, it was kind of exciting that he brought something so different to the Skywalker saga. And now he is jumping on as a showrunner for this upcoming show. And now that's premiering with Andor. So this has me excited just based on the fact this is different. Even when we look at Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, who makes appearances in those shows? The one, spoiler alert, Luke Skywalker. Okay. We even had references like to Baby Yoda. Okay. References to Yoda, things in that regard. So here, it feels very much like a new exploration of the Star Wars universe. It's a continuation of a story that Star Wars fans want to see, right? A prequel that maybe they don't care as much about the character Andor. Maybe he wasn't as juicy when Rogue One came about. But if you were to make a prequel series about one of those characters, I think it made most sense if you did Andor, especially because I rewatched Rogue One a couple nights ago. There are a few moments between those interactions between Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor where Cassian Andor indicates like he went through a lot of crap, right, throughout his life. He said, right, it was one of the quotes in the movie, is like, I've been doing this, like fighting this rebellion since I was 6 years old, right? And he goes through, he's cold-hearted. How did he become so cold-hearted? There is a story and a character exploration that can be explored, right, through this character. I think it's been a little bit slow to start, but I think we're on the right track right now. So I think going on from here, what were your initial reactions to episodes 1 through 3?
I initially thought it was slow, right? It was slow. Okay. Built up to the end of episode 3 when Skarsgård came to the fold and we got into the spy elements, him becoming a rebel spy for the most part. For me, it felt like one episode, really. one long, slow episode, just building up to him becoming a spy. We get the flashback sequences, which I didn't think intertwined very well until like the end, if it did at all. But we get more backstory of him on Canary. Um, we got good familiarity with the character, but I think the key here is that, at least not yet, there's no reliance on the IP, on Star Wars. This was basically brand new. And I liked it. I liked the vibe. Okay. Yes, it was slow, but I liked the vibe of the show, as in the setting, right? We're used to lightsabers and like Mandalorians around. Like here it's just like, oh, this is a poor-ish city, and this corporate sector, right? What is it called? Felix or whatever it is, Ferrix, I think. And like
Ferrex.
Morlana is where the brothel was in the beginning. So yeah, I did like this part of the galaxy that we don't really get to see in a non like if you're not like on like Tatooine, like yeah, sure that's poor, but at least Luke Skywalker's there or like a Jedi's there. You know what I mean? Like and the Mandalorian, like you could say the same thing, but it's like oh, but we have the Mandalorian who we know, like oh, we know Mandalorians from Boba Fett, like and then you have Baby Yoda. It's like oh, that's Yoda, like literally his name's Baby Yoda on like in real life. So it's still relying on Star Wars IP. This is just not at all. Like Andor, yeah, sure, but like I just said, I don't find my relationship with Cassian Andor from One to be anything special. So really, this is brand new, and I do like that, especially for a spy thriller, crime elements, like what's going to come with Tony Gilroy. Like think of Jason Bourne, and he was one of the writers on Rogue One. I do have faith in him, a lot of faith in him, and this to make this character something special to add to the Star Wars pantheon. Now, I'm not trying to relate this to She-Hulk at all, but this won't be related to Star Wars like projects in the future. So, hey, like make this your own, Tony Gilroy. Like this will be 2 seasons too, so we don't have to rush anything. We know it's going to be 2 seasons. So, let's make it as realistic, low-level story as possible and just make sure we show that character development throughout, that they started well here, a little slow, but now we could do that through action sequences throughout the rest of the season and next season as well.
So I agree with many of your statements. I think for the first 3 episodes, it was a bit slow. I think the first episode and the second was a lot of character introductions, a lot of setup for the new worlds that we're exploring, right? You mentioned what we've seen previously in Star Wars, how we've almost overexplored certain territories. So it's cool to go to different places. I also think this is kind of a turnoff in some ways to diehard Star Wars fans because of the lack of recognizable characters. But we do know in the future of the show, we're getting Saw Gerrera, we're getting Mon Mothma. So we are going to have that connectivity that you see with some Star Wars shows. They're not the biggest of names, but they are what the show is most connected with, which is Rogue One, right? So if you have those type, you have Forrest Whitaker showing up here, that's a big deal. That is an absolutely Oscar winner. That is a massive deal. And someone that was kind of underplayed in Rogue One in terms of screen time. I want to say I loved I think that when I saw the first scene, I think it built up the hype for this show too much because I expected so much after that first scene. I thought the cinematography was amazing. The rain coming down, entering the brothel. We're getting dark for a Star Wars show. It almost felt like I was watching an HBO show premiere during that first, like, I want to say 15 minutes. It goes to, it seems like it's not for kids. Like we go to a brothel pretty much for a Star Wars show. That's telling me something about the tone and how dark this show is going to be. And we witness, right? It almost felt like Blade Runner. Did you get Blade Runner vibes from the first 15 minutes?
Because the lights in the brothel. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, darker in the holograms when you go into the bar. It's like, and he's staring at them. People are questioning. You're wondering where your loyalties lie. Like, to me, it was just screaming Blade Runner in the first 15 minutes. I wish it carried that over a little bit longer, but that got me so excited for the rest of this episode. I thought episode 1 was solid. It was a good pilot. Episode 2, I thought wasn't good. I didn't like it. I thought it was slow. I think it spent too much time regarding with flashbacks. It was kind of getting confusing when they were transitioning and the editing, like when you go from present day to flashbacks. Yeah, but I will say the flashbacks by the end of episode 3 made me think they were worth it in the long run. It made me recognize how good this writing is. Stellan Skarsgård, right, taking Cassian Andor, saving him from a dangerous situation, right, just as Marva did when he was what was the planet he's from? He's Kenari. Yeah. So he's from Kenari, him being taken away as a kid, and they juxtapose that with Stellan Skarsgård taking him away from being captured by the Empire. It shows me like the mentor-mentee relationship he's about to go on is going to enter this like the rebellion, right, for the first time. But I was a little surprised because by the way he spoke in Rogue One, meaning Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, I thought it happened much earlier in his life. I didn't know his situation from his home planet, right? I didn't think that was going to be when he gets adopted. Like I didn't know about that backstory, but I made it seem like he was fighting against the rebellion since he was 6 years old. And he was clearly older than 6 in that flashback sequences. So like, did you? I don't know if you saw Rogue One recently, and if you remember that quote, but it just seems like a kind of a misstep in terms of storytelling and connectivity of the universe.
Yeah, I don't. For me, I really don't care.
Okay, you don't care, but like
Yeah,
I just watched it and like I don't know.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, like Leo meme, like that's like pointing at the TV on that if I remembered it. But for me, like if I was this show, if you're gonna incorporate flashbacks, might as well just started with him as a spy. Let's just get right into it. And then incorporate flashbacks if you want to do that. Because the way they did it, the ending, like I said, like you said, the juxtapose. I cannot say that word.
Juxtaposition.
You say it, not you say it for me. But with Skarsgård, that was good. But like for me, I really didn't like it, and I thought it wasn't clear from a directing point of view. Whoever's the director, was it Gilroy directing this too? Usually showrunners and writers have someone else direct.
Not the third episode.
Okay, it makes sense. But yeah, I didn't think that was good. But if he started out as a spy already, and then you started out like that first scene, then it's like, boom, this is what it's going to be. But no, we don't get anything until the end of the third episode, until we get some sort of action sequence there. And I really didn't like that because I thought this show was supposed to be like a Jason Bourne type feel. It will. But for me, it was just like way too long to get back to what we want to see most. And yeah, we got to get through the development, but you can do that in other ways that are better than what they showed here.
And I did want to ask you, like, you've seen that Twitter movement where it's like the horse that's like bland, like black and white, and then it gets a little more detailed, like it has some heat on it than the one's on fire. So if you were to do that with the episodes here and like kind of draw out that tweet, put out a visual, like what's going where? Episode 1, episode 2 to episode 3.
Yeah, well, the beginning would be the horse's butt. That's like perfect.
So the butt, so it's like black, white, detailed.
Yeah, and then the rest of it would be the rest of the episode.
You don't think the third episode was good?
The end of it was. I wanted to like put that end also on the horse's end. Like I want to put like the first part of the first episode and the last part of the third episode both on the good part of the horse.
Third episode I loved. I did like how the Empire was invading, right, the city. I love like the banging on the citizens, right, who obviously view the Empire as an enemy, them banging on the metal on the repetitious beat. So it warns that like they are the enemy. No matter what is committed here, like everyone is in solidarity against the Empire. And then going beyond that, I think we found a good villain to start, at least low-key villain, not going to be the big bad of it all with Cyril. I think he's we're going to talk about him in a second, but I think he is definitely very hateable, and we find Cassian, and he makes Cassian Andor so much more likable. And then Stellan Skarsgård, that interaction that him and Cassian Andor have where they're unsure of one another, it felt very much like a spy thriller. Who can you trust? Okay. And then we don't even know if we can trust Cassian Andor and the stories that he's telling. And then you start to take Stellan Skarsgård's side, right? And you're like, maybe I like this guy's actually more good than Cassian Andor, because we know Cassian Andor, like he's for the rebellion, but he's not afraid to do terrible things. And that's what makes him such a unique Star Wars character. In a world where things are like either good or bad, he's like, I'm willing to do good, but willing to do bad things to achieve it, you know? So I thought the interaction between those two characters was electric. And I love that exit portion of the episode,
Right.
and then even just it was a little much. It got a little woke in us in the middle of the third episode.
Mm.
We're talking police brutality, and it was talking about like basically mistreatment of citizens by the police and like mistraining and things like that. People like police just firing at citizens, things like that. Seems like Gilroy was sending a message with that portion of
Yep.
the show. But I thought really the third episode was pretty stellar.
When they were like leaving, escaping, when they had the fake pod go and then the Empire shoots it down, I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, this is genius. Like this is a spy thriller. Having a fake one and then I was like, "Oh," and then because before that, Cassian Andor was like, "Do you have any of those charges left?" I was like, "Oh my god. So that means they're going to blow it up and then they're going to think they're dead. So then now he could truly be a spy and then no one and they'll never actually like think to look for him, you know?" But then they show up right afterwards. I'm like, "Oh my god, are they spies or not?" Like, you could have easily snuck
I don't
by.
like how they waved goodbye pretty much like to
Yes,
the
it's
enemy, where
awful.
it's like sneak away like an actual like
For
espionage
fake your
thriller, you
death.
know?
That would have been so good if you
Yeah.
faked your death. Like, that would be a spy thrill, like,
But like, or just
spy
leave
element.
some detail so Cyril knows you're still alive at the end, where he figures it out because he is pretty incompetent after like kind
He
of like
is.
flexing for the first episode and a half. I think we should go to this character because I find him interesting. I think he's a really good foil to Andor. Like they're both confident, at least they first appear to be, right? But this guy, like, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's like doing, he's a symbol of moral authority. Okay. And then you have Andor on the other side. He knows what he's doing is right, just based on the history we know of the character, right? But he's doing more evil things in terms of he's killed people, as opposed to Cyril, who's supposed to be the symbol of good. You know, I just feel like they go against one another very well. But I think if it came to a one-on-one bout, like Andor is going to murder this dude.
Yeah, that's my big issue. Like, I agree with everything you said, but my big issue is that this guy, at the end of the day, like, he's not a leader. Clearly, he can't do the speech, and they clearly try to show how he's not definitely, like, capable of handling everything. At the end, when they're like, "We gotta go," and, like, he's just staring there at the blown up speed racer or whatever, it's just like, oh, he's I don't find him formidable at
He's
all.
not. I think that's on purpose. Like what
Yes,
the
right. It
person,
is no, it
yeah.
is definitely on purpose, but it's like, okay, why introduce him and give him so much screen time in these first 3 episodes? Because it isn't a formidable villain. I don't see him becoming one. So it's like, okay, like why waste our time? Like, who's going to be the formidable villain
Or
that Cassian's gonna be, spying against?
time for growth, right? So it's like it's a 12 episode season. You know, that's plenty of
That's
time
a
to
lot.
grow. Like Cassian Andor is not yet the spy and war hero, rebellion hero that we know him to be. Like when he kills that guy in the beginning, you could tell he hasn't killed many people, right? If he's
Mm.
killed anybody, right? He was shocked when he killed that person at first. It seemed like he went into shock. And he's like, this person knows I have to kill this dude. And it seemed like he was freaking out a bit. Like I did not anticipate the first 3 episodes was being the Empire searching for Cassian Andor before he's even a part of the rebellion. You know, to me that was a little
That
bit
is shocking.
shocking. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to go that far deep, I guess, in Cassian Andor's story, and then going to his origins. We knew we were going to get the flashbacks because this is one character we didn't know too much about. Right? We just know he kind of has, he's just a true soldier. And we even got more background like him, like he was an Imperial soldier, and like he's lying to Stellan Skarsgård about this. Okay, so it's like we're still gonna get these details regarding his past history. Maybe this is the first time we're also gonna see him. Like he didn't meet Saw Gerrera before, if I can recall from Rogue One. So I guess we're gonna see Saw Gerrera somehow playing a part here. Maybe he's going to meet Stellan Skarsgård. It's just because I just don't know exactly where the story is going to go because I assumed he was a part of the rebellion when the show was like when we got the trailer and when we saw the first episode. The fact that he is just learning the ropes now, which just came as a bit of a shock.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would have preferred, after seeing these 3 episodes, to just jump right in. But, hey, we get or make it like this one, like, because again, this felt like one long episode. Just make the 3rd episode, like, maybe 40 minutes, and just make it 1 episode. So you get like the first scene, why they're chasing him, then they're there, and then we figure it out with Skarsgård. Maybe just make that the one episode, and we make this a 10-episode series. Even nice, even round number.
Yeah, that could be it too. I do want to we talked a little bit about Skarsgård. Electric entrance, in my opinion, going into the third episode where he starts to interact with Andor. I've always been a big fan of Stellan Skarsgård, but we also got a new droid here that I want to talk about. We got B2. What do you think about B2 and his introduction to the Star Wars universe?
Broken down droid, so I feel for him. It's tough. We saw him in his prime back in the day. I don't know. I guess I'm indifferent to him. I don't really find him or her, whatever, the droid that great, to be honest, like the other droids we've seen in Star Wars. But again, it's just a couple episodes in. And yeah, like all droids are droids.
I thought I don't. No, you can't, dude. I hate the
You
fact
know,
you just said that, bro.
I
No,
you
I
know,
don't.
like
No, I don't.
the non-core droids are just droids. Like you
One of
have
the
your R2, C3PO, BB-8. This one's not one of those, man.
Oh, Ricky, Jesus. We're talking about the prequel to Rogue One, where you have probably my third favorite droid in the history of Star Wars with K2SO. The most, like, easily the most hilarious. Like
This one's not on that level.
It's not yet. But you have to show love to droids. You just like brush them aside like they were nothing.
I don't know, man. This droid was nothing really. Like
Ricky.
this didn't add any value to the episode.
Ricky. Yes, it will in the future though. Ricky. So we're making early judgments here.
I'm
12
not
episodes
anything
here.
Yeah, I'm
so
not saying
I will
it's bad
say
or good. I'm just saying it's a wait and see.
So you didn't
approach.
think it was funny when Andor was saying he was going to leave and he was like, yeah, you should stay. You should stay. And then he's like, no, you should leave. You should leave. He's like one of the first droids that's unsure of himself. Right? Obviously, C-3PO was always like a nervous wreck, but this one's like indecisive. And you could tell, right, from its years of being with Cassian Andor, he has an affinity towards him. You know, and that's the kind of like relationships I look for, where it's like a true dog, like it's like a pet in that regard. Okay, but what a mistake by Cassian Andor speaking to the droid when knowing that he is wanted by the Empire. But that shows me this is not the Cassian Andor we've come to know when he meets Jyn Erso, when he is like one of the key members of the rebellion, right? So it just has me a little bit excited to see where we're going to start from this 1 through 3 of Andor and get to Rogue One. You know what? We're gonna like literally see him become a badass by the tutelage of Stellan Skarsgård. I think that's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I agree. This definitely has potential. Like I really can't wait to see what adventures we go on here. I just hope it's not like Mandalorian where we just go on one-off adventures. I just hope it's like a consistent, like there's 2 seasons already planned out. Hopefully it's just one consistent story throughout that just flows nicely versus like the first season of Mandalorian.
Yeah. And I think the first episode of Mandalorian is it's like a better version of what She-Hulk's doing, to be honest. I would say that's like almost like a natural type of comparison where it's like some episodes seemed inconsequential to the overall story. It seems like here, every episode that Gilroy writes is going to be integral, right, for this story and understanding this character, Cassian Andor. Because I think right now a lot of Star Wars fans are thinking like what you mentioned in the beginning. Did this guy deserve a TV show? Right. And I think it just depends on how Gilroy writes it. Right now, I think he's off to a hot start. You seem to be disagreeing with me a little bit. Right. The pacing is slow, but I think it's going to get us there. I truly do. And
yeah, I think we'll get there too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, similar to the droids. I'm indifferent right now. Like it was good, it wasn't great. Like I'm not gonna just say like, oh, this was the best thing since sliced bread.
No. I was not saying that, Ricky. You just dismissed droids as a whole in Star Wars lore.
Dismissing is
You
different
said
than just saying.
You said all droids are the same, basically.
I take that back. I didn't mean. Whoa.
Give me your top 5 droids now.
No.
Now.
I'm not big.
I know. Say it again. I dare you to say it again.
I'm not gonna say it again.
No,
but I'm not gonna call this droid. It's not in my top 5 droids. It's just not.
I do have to give another shout out to a supporting character I really enjoyed was Brasso, the guy who's bailing out Andor. He has to think of like the alibi of where Andor's been after he commits the 2 murders. And the guy thinks of a better story to back up his boy. He's also presumably the guy who ties the Empire's ship right? Weighted down by the construction work, and then it ends up crashing. He's just a good side character in Star Wars. Someone that you root for, someone that's not going to get all the glory, but you're going to say, like, hey, if we do a Star Wars supporting character draft, remember that dude who saved Cassian Andor? You know he's showing up later in this series too. Interesting, right?
He was really good. I liked him.
I think also we have to touch upon a storyline that wasn't really built upon other than the first scene, and it's Cassian Andor's sister, okay, who's looking for when he's in the brothel, right? It seems like this is going to be a long play from Gilroy. There's not going to be an immediate, right, attention that's given to this story, but it tells why he's right on that first planet. What was the first planet called? Do you remember?
It was Morlana.
Morlana. Okay, so it's hard to remember these, like all these new names of characters, all these new planets. But him finding his sister, it's kind of interesting because this shows how different of a character he is from this point to Rogue One. Rogue One, he is soulless, bro. He was going to kill Jyn Erso's dad with Jyn Erso on the trek with them, right? How messed up is that? But he ends up like Jyn Erso. We have to give credit where credit's due. She's a character that softens Cassian Andor's heart, right? But Cassian Andor was a stone cold dude when we meet him in Rogue One, and right now he seems a little bit soft. He's trying to find a sister. Maybe it's the what happens to his sister that helps turns him so cold, other than what the rebellion has done throughout his life. You know, so do you have any predictions regarding his sister, when we're going to see this storyline come again into fruition?
I was confused when I saw the flashback, and wasn't that his sister that was just shot down?
Oh shoot! Did she? Oh, no, I don't
Who
think.
was that? Like, it was
That
clearly
his sister? No, his sister was younger than him, right?
but like that was the same little girl that was with him throughout like all the
No,
other flashbacks.
I don't think so.
I was so confused. I was like, "Oh my god!" So that she's dead.
I
So
did.
like, are we gonna get another flashback where she's not really dead, but
That
her
was,
eyes are open? Fantastic actress, that little girl. Like she played dead, amazing. Her
but
eyes
no,
were
no,
open,
no,
not
no.
moving.
There's no way that was the little sister.
So like,
They wouldn't have allowed her to
but that
be the
goes
one that
back to
goes
this
in.
flashback sequences, how like dumb they were. Like
Okay, like maybe they weren't as entertaining, but I think it was worth it to see the relationship he had with Marva, and then also how it's going to be similar with Stellan Skarsgård. Yes, it seems stupid at the time, and I
It's
think people
upsetting
don't like
for
it because it doesn't
viewing.
feel like Star Wars. It feels like the Predator movie Prey that we just saw, rather than right a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't have the same feel, so I think people are kind of thrown off by it, and it feels so out of place. But we're going to right a different sector of this universe, right, that we don't really know about, and we're exploring different worlds. And I don't think Star Wars fans are at comfort with it yet.
Agreed. I definitely agree. But as far as my predictions with the sister, my guess is that she's probably like either an imperial, like something not with the rebels against the definitely not with the rebels. I think it's gonna
You don't think that she's potentially with the rebellion and that he's going to unite with her like throughout his journey to becoming a rebel? Maybe.
maybe I don't know. Again, like it was just I honestly I thought that was the little girl, and I was just confused the rest of the time, thinking, oh my god, like why is he looking? Is he this dumb or is he this optimistic? Like I don't know.
If they're somehow adversarial, it'd be very Star Wars esque, obviously, from what we've seen with the
Right.
Skywalker saga. So if she becomes maybe a spy for the Empire, wouldn't be surprised if that's the case as well.
Right.
Any other final thoughts on Andor before we wrap up today's episode?
So the Bix character, clearly a history there with Andor, the girl,
Woman, yes, very good
woman
looking.
on Ferrix. She
Wouldn't
does look
forget
kind of like a Halle Berry like feel to her or
her.
like look to her.
Yeah, she does.
But the guy he's dating, I was like, God dang it, what show is that guy from, or what
That
movie is
guy
that
is
guy from?
hitting
And
freaking so
I
far up his league, dude. What a
and
move by that guy.
I totally agree. And he was in and out in the Scottish accent. I'm like, do you have one or do you not? And then I was like, but I know this person from somewhere.
That guy
And
sucked.
I couldn't think of what movie or show. I was like, it's not Succession, but he can look like a preppy rich kid that's just annoying and butthurt about everything in his life, even though he has everything. But that's not who he is. Do you know what show I'm thinking of that he's in?
Was he in
Very
Daredevil?
minor. No, but good guess.
Like I thought he was Wilson Fisk's
Oh, maybe.
assistant. No, I don't know.
Mayor of Easttown. He's the priest, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Dude, terrible guy.
Terrible guy. But yeah, dude, weird. I was just like, I know this guy. That was overhanging me, and then he just got shot dead. I was just like, oh, it's over.
Dude, that guy deserved to die. That guy was terrible. Like that was my least favorite character by a long shot, for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, so make sure you tune into the feed. We're going to have our Andor recaps every week. We are going to also have our House of the Dragon coming this Monday with the debut of the King's Council featuring myself, Dr. O, Ricky Flix, On Ali, and Nez in his triumphant return to the Drive-In podcast. Make sure you're also tuning in for the checkup on a weekly basis, along with next week's review. Don't worry, darling. You're not going to want to miss that one, okay? Make sure you're also tuning into the social channels at the Drive-In Pod on Instagram and on Twitter. Also, make sure if you're watching on YouTube right now that you are hitting the subscribe button. You're also commenting, liking. If you comment, we're going to respond to you. If you're listening right now on podcast form, make sure that you rate 5 stars and leave a review. If it's a review, we're going to share it on the podcast, whether it's good or bad, because we're those guys. So that's going to do it for episode 149 of TDI. For Ricky Flex and Dr. O, until next time, we will smell ya.